with the Teic.ie review of the Palm Pre phone. I'm just going to give an outline of my thoughts on the phone itself, pros and cons. We'll start off with the positives of it. It's a really nice looking phone, really well designed, has a nice QWERTY keyboard integrated into the bottom, really good and responsive touchscreen, nice and bright too. One of the really nice features that I think is worth noting about the Palm Pre is its integration of things like Google accounts and so on. It's really simple to set up an account for, say, your Gmail. I'll just go into mail here, and once you set up your account, it syncs the information across the phone. So for example, I've set up my Gmail account there. My contacts also has all of the email addresses that were with my Gmail account. On top of that, the messaging now has it's set up with Google Talk, so if I put myself online there, I'd be able to chat to people on the go. It does that across a number of different platforms, Facebook being another example, and then of course your SIM card, the contacts from that, and it merges them all, and so you won't, it claims anyway, you won't have duplication, so you'll get the email address from one person and combine it with the mobile number and put it all together nice and neatly on the phone. Another thing which you may have just seen there while I was going around the phone was the gestures. Some nice gestures on the phone. For example, if you have something open, you press the main button here in the middle, which sends you home, and you can just swipe it up to close the application and it's gone. You can swipe up from the bottom, which will bring you into the main menu. Swipe back down, it will close the main menu. And there's a few other little things like that going back. For example, there's a gesture bar across the bottom, which you slide back to go back. As well as that, say, navigating your way around a couple of different things. There's the calendar there. You can see there it has this card system, so you can open up a number of different applications and you can sort through whichever one you want, get rid of one, get rid of the other, and so on. So things like that they look really nice, work really well. I said the touchscreen is really responsive, and then on top of that, the various things you can do within the phone. So there's messaging, photos, music, Google Maps. You also have a document view or PDF view, YouTube integration, so on and so forth. So on that front, there's a lot of positives from the phone. It also has just straightforward things. It has a physical silence button across the top, which you can just see there, and it also has a 2.5-inch headphone jack. So they're the positives basically. However, the downside, I found that the phone was quite slow and sluggish in certain things. You may have seen as I was going through there, when you hit to open mail, there's a little bit of a delay before it actually opens up. As well as that, I mean, even on simple applications, so if you go over to the clock here and we tap on that, there's a couple of seconds there of delay just for the clock to open up, which is a basic simple application that you'd have on any phone. The fact that it has multitasking on top of that, then, so you have a number of applications open, if it's going that slowly when you just have the one thing open, that's not really a good sign. As well as that, the keyboard is good. It's not the worst out there, but it is a little bit finicky, and it takes, you can kind of see there that you have to be really precise. Using it with one hand is nearly impossible. You really have to use it with two hands, and it does take a bit of getting used to, although in fairness that can be said for most types of QWERTY keyboard phones out there. Another thing that really kind of bothered me was when, say, in messaging or email, when you're composing something or text, whatever it might be, the auto complete and the auto correct on it, it's really hit and miss. There's a lot of times when you'll type something in and say you miss one key by one, it won't correct it for you, whereas other things, like say on the iPhone, it would guess what you meant and would correct it, and would usually get it right as well. There's very little of that, but it does pop up then in really strange ways. For example, if you were to type MS, so say you're trying to say Microsoft, it will automatically assume that you mean miss, so it'll put a dot after that, and you go back and try and correct it, and there's no way for you to tell it that you meant the other way. One really strange quirk that it has is the word check. Whether you mean a written check or a to check something, it will automatically assume you meant the opposite. So if you're writing to say that you were paid by check and you spell it QUE, it will change it to CK, and vice versa. So you'll just really, really strange. There's no way to tell it that no, which way you meant. So little kind of things like that, little flaws like that, that really kind of let down what would otherwise be quite a nice phone. And then there are other things as well. The applications, we're still kind of waiting on a decent app store coming out from Palm. To really kind of back it up. There's no Twitter integration, so if you want to go onto Twitter on this, you have to go through the web browser, which by the way is a good web browser. It's not great. It's kind of awkward to open up different tabs in it. It seems to be the only application that uses the accelerometer. It lets you go upside down for some reason. But yeah, overall, it's a nice phone. It's just not a great phone. There are a lot of things that could be better on it, and hopefully Palm will do well enough out of this and will be able to correct the small little mistakes that they have made. It's probably one of the better smartphones out there, but it's certainly nowhere near as good as something like the iPhone, for example. Unfortunately, it's going to be compared to that. So that's it basically. I'd say it's a good phone, but just not a great phone. There's a few things that really do let it down overall. So that's the Teic.ie review of the Palm Pre. Stay tuned to the website and to YouTube for more in the next few days.